The European View Podcast. Your place to navigate the insights of our policy journal, brought to you by the Martens Centre. With Sara Pini.
Hello, and welcome to the European View Podcast, your way to navigate through the main issues of our policy journal with valuable insights from the author themselves. I'm Sara Pini, the Assistant Editor-in-Chief of the European View and the Senior Research Officer at the Martens Centre. And today we have another double guest episode with Katerina Jakimovska, who is a Senior Project Officer here at the Martens Centre, and Mihael Koščak, who is an independent researcher, but a previous colleague at the Martens Centre. Their article, titled "Is it protest or policy? What are young people saying that mainstream parties refuse to hear?" tackles a topic that is particularly relevant for us, Martens Centre, as the official political foundation of the European People's Party. The "it" in the title pointing both to the declining turnout and also the growing support for far-right populist parties among young voters. As usual, you can find this and all the other articles of the European View on our website, martenscenter.eu. So, Katerina, Mihael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Sara.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, glad to be here.
So, Mihael, let me start with the central question of your title. Is it protest or policy?
Well, first of all, to kind of delve into it, our main takeaway from this, that it is actually a protest, primarily and almost exclusively. When we were conducting our research, we found out that when young people are voting for the far right, including the case of problematic low voter turnout, we have found out that when they vote for the far right, it is primarily for socioeconomic reasons. Also, because they feel that mainstream parties are not kind of handling their main concerns. This is mainly because also as well, we see from the previous European elections in 2024 that there has been 6 points decrease in young voter turnout. And that is kind of a downward trend from the previous elections when we had a surge in youth participation. What is more, in kind of our study, we kind of found out that young people kind of are less inclined to vote for kind of party loyalties. They are not so partisan aligned as older generations, which kind of shows us that while older generations kind of want to retain their kind of position, their interests and their kind of status, young people are in a position where they have to attain this kind of status. This is also why they're anxious about their future, why they are unsure about their job security, about their incomes, about their housing, which is kind of also from our event, it has kind of aroused as the main issue of youth generation. So as I mentioned, it is basically or kind of primarily a socioeconomic concern, which the far right is exploiting. We also mentioned the case of Jordan Bardella as a national rally kind of young leader, we could say, which kind of rose. He's a young leader. He's kind of relatable to the young people. He looks young. Also, the far right has kind of changed their approach. They kind of put very significant emphasis on the social medias to kind of relate to the young people. They also don't look like they used to before. Now they dress formally. They don't wear, bomber jackets, Martens, and so on. This kind of sort of clothing, and because of this, and the thing that they have right now, they speak even more about, in the case of AFD, National Rally, and I know Vox in Spain. They speak even more about social kind of inclusive policies for workers' rights. Also for pensions, for students, for the unemployed. And they wrap it up under anti-EU, anti-immigration policies. And that is why we say that it is a protest, because the young people are not voting for the far right because they are anti-EU, anti-immigration, rather because they feel they have been kind of left out by the mainstream parties, which haven't addressed their concerns. And therefore, it is kind of a part of or sort of protest voting against the mainstream parties, which I honestly think that mainstream parties will have to address in the future.
Now, we speak about young people, but as you explain in your article, when we talk about the rise of far-right support among youth, we are actually talking primarily about young men. So, Katerina, why is the case?
Thank you, Sara, for the question. Basically, there is something which we also delved into in our research. 2024 was a year of European elections, but also of US elections, and there are some similarities in how young people cast their votes. If they, decide to go out and vote, and what we have noticed is that there is a similar pattern of young women going, let's say, the progressive line, like a more consistent, more constant progressive line, voting for liberal or left-inclining options. But then on the other side of the spectrum, we have young men that made a kind of a U-turn in which they, as young people, they decide to opt for these conservative, radical right options. There is not really something which can be set in stone right now, that the research is still new. These are quite new phenomenon, but there are a couple of observations and assumptions why this could happen. I think that the COVID era heavily impacted young people's opinions about their own world, but also the world view and how things should look like. I think that the far right movements really managed to pick up on young men which have been left out, isolated during COVID era, in the formative years, when basically all of us, this is a very normal thing, we form our relationships, so we meet friends which most likely will rest with us like as lifetime friends. All of this they experienced online, so basically their world, outside world, have turned into a 9:16 format, and that is their smartphone. So everything that they do, the way they interact, it's via the phone. And I picked up on a very stunning figure that a significant portion, and when I say a significant portion, I mean a double-digit portion of young people, they don't have friends, or they have never been out on a date. And these are youngsters which are not only high school gymnasium students, but also like at university. So all of this impacts their isolation, their loneliness, and they turned into these like exits in which it's very easy for a far-right person to say, we're here to support you, we should go back to the traditional values, and those values are what their parents and their parents also have taught them, that women should belong, should have a more like a subsidiary role in society. Now they are becoming a competition also for gaining a good job. So basically they're saying we have gone too far with feminism, because now women are more demanding. They do not accept the standards that we have known for more than 100 years. These are kind of a couple of reasons why, and also like the background, how young people cast their votes. And basically this far-right movement is a lot more concentrated towards young men. They are not really interested in gaining traction among young women. They are toxic. They are a bit like they have these like toxic masculinity traits, which are not even shying away to show. So all this, maybe we can speak also later. Mihael will mention all these like housing challenges, economic challenges that young people are facing, are being masked with some kind of battle of the genders, and this is very dangerous and could have very high, long-standing societal implications.
We will get back to this later, but first, we are recording this episode right after our launch event of this issue of the European U. And for our listener, if you missed the live stream, you can still watch it on our YouTube channel. So is there any takeout, like food for thought or interesting idea that you got from the presentations of the other authors and from the following debate?
There is something which came to my mind while we were discussing all these challenges, which are not really differing now from the millennial generation. For example, housing issues, economic issues. We are in a crisis mode for like 5-6 years now since COVID. I think that maybe, and this was a very good outcome, and I even raised that point, that maybe we should not divide young people in a separate group, but we take them as one. If the voter's age is as of 18 or 16 even years of age in some countries until 70 plus, then these are all voters and these are all citizens that deserve equal treatment in the policy making, in addressing the public. So I think that by creating this basket of young people and then just divide them, there is always a youth association of something. They should be together on the table with the, let's say, elderly, more mature, more experienced politicians. And I think this is the way to go, maybe also in the policy making, to get closer instead of detaching them from the public.
Yeah, it's not a separate policy, it's a trans-cutting policy. And Mihael?
I would like to kind of, combine the first panel and the second one, because kind of merge it into one. Like from the first panel, I was very interested about the article and by the speeches of Eon and Teona, because Eon kind of also spoke about the social contract, which is, I think, very much important, because I kind of feel that, today young generations, they feel as they have to, risk their future, like their current situation for the, elderly generations, because it feels like when we kind of discuss that and we kind of word the article, it's like young people have to attain something. Older cohorts, they already have housing, they are mortgage free. And I think young people feel very anxious because they have to kind of attain it. And I remember Evan mentioned that the elderly, they get the most social policies, while a lot of tax incomes and so on are kind of a burden of the young people. So young people have to contribute a lot kind of for the older cohorts. And I think that is also kind of a question of social contract, which Teona mentioned, that in the future, older cohorts kind of present majority of the kind of voting base because we are aging population and so on. But it seems like even though it's usually like reversible, I know young people kind of have to, take care for the older because it's kind of a generational thing, solidarity. But it feels like right now, also the elderly will have to kind of contribute, or it would be kind of better to say, to take away something from them, but supposedly they will have to contribute because young people today kind of depend a lot on the parental income. It's hard for them to, get mortgage. It's hard for them even to get, some capital savings to kind of be able to kind of get a mortgage loan from the bank. And then in the second panel, Wojciech he talked about security and defense and the social contract that young people are obliged to kind of contribute. And I agree totally. But I feel that young people today feel kind of left out, and they're very anxious about the future, about their security. And I think, politicians, mainstream parties will have to do a lot to kind of tackle these kind of issues in the future.
I wanted to follow up on this. There is something which I came across a few days ago. I was a bit in a shock, but then I understand what is happening and how alarming the situation is. That I saw that, again, a significant portion of young people, probably the way the research portrayed it, it's not like something like 5%, but they would not want to work. They're not really motivated to work hard because they will not be able to save to accomplish their long-term goals. And this is the first, usually the young ones are the ones which are dreaming big. They want to own a business. They want to travel a lot. And now they do not want to work, not because they are lazy. Au contraire, we have more and more young educated people, but they just think that there won't be like a job for them, and they won't be able to have job security that would allow them to save and to fulfill some dreams or to invest in their future. This is in my mind, this is an apocalyptic scenario in their minds. How do they portray the future?
Yeah, we spoke about this reversed intergenerational balance, basically that everything, the patterns that we knew are all reversed. Now it's young people are worse off economically, they're worse off mentally, they're less optimistic about the future. So it's really an upheaval. As you said, it looks like a cataclysmatic upturn. So of course, you are not the first ones to highlight the fact that young people turn away from mainstream parties. It's recurring issues. You pointed out also during the event. And one of the key conclusions for from our event is that we must bring affordability back to the center of the political debate. It cannot be left to left-wing or extremist parties alone. And at the Martin Center, we are doing just that with our upcoming publication, Affordability and Opportunity, How to Heal Divided Society. But then we also pointed out that this is not enough. We also have to deliver also in a communication sense. And Mihael, you made some interesting remarks about that. How can we do, as mainstream parties, can we do a better job at communicating to young people?
I think that for young people, it is very important that politicians relate to them, kind of address them in a specific manner. I have at the panel, I have mentioned the example of the current mayor of newly elected mayor of New York, when he kind of in his campaign he very much addressed like the kind of current and the very kind of big needs of young population, and that is, for example, public transport. He's also what is even furthermore interesting in his political campaign, and even nowadays he kind of rides with public transport. But the biggest thing, out of all of it, is that he kind of advocated for the free public transport and for the issue of housing. And in this case, he very much kind of, I think, connected to the young people who work, people who kind of also have to attain something in the future. While his candidate, opposing candidate, spoke a lot about security, reasons, while he kind of, I think, mostly addressed the specific kind of concerns of the young people. And I think also, I mentioned also the cases of populist politicians who uses communications to relate to young people. I think we should kind of sometimes, take some good examples, for example, of, taking young people into kind of addressing and also using kind of social media to get more to the people. But I think the bad thing about populists is that they feed on fear, and fear spreads 5 times faster than facts. And I think when it comes to Gen Z and the millennials, young people, just not to kind of make distinction, I think we are kind of overwhelmed with lots of informations, social media, which is I think have become the main source of information for many young people. We have been overwhelmed with lots of informations, and people today are mainly, watching 10 seconds reels, and they do not get the context. And I think when it comes to political communications, we need to speak about the context, because nothing is black and white, nothing is, everything is very much nuanced. And I also kind of mentioned the current very kind of hot topic of Mercosur. When it comes to Mercosur, the far right have kind of taken the communication part in saying it is bad, and they kind of had lots of disinformation, misinformations. While I think the mainstream parties in parliament, they had reached a very good deal. Gabriel Mato, as a rapporteur from the EPP on the Mercosur deal, he achieved very good kind of compromises, very good safeguard clauses for the protection of the farmers. But unfortunately, in the media and by the far right, it was communicated as something, which will very much harm the farmers and so on. So I think the communications should, of course, focus on young people, kind of adjust their specific concerns, adjust to kind of their viewpoints, kind of the way they kind of receive the information, and give context, because I think the Gen Z and the millennials, young people, they need a context on whatever they do. They need a context to broadly understand, because, as mentioned before, those are the most educated generations in history. And far right have exploited the thing that even though they feel if they obtain 2 or 3 master degrees, they cannot get kind of stability for their lives. And I think it is very important that communication addresses that. We also see that how communication is important now is also in the case of Hungary, with TISA fighting the populists, like the Orban. We see, I also remember how in the parliament MEP of TISA, Zoltán Tar, mentioned that we need to sell what we are doing. It doesn't matter, no, it doesn't matter, but we maybe something, do a very good job, but we do not present it as we should. And I think that should be the main emphasis, the communication, and to bring it to media, bring it to people, because I think that is one of the most important things in nowadays kind of digital society.
Yeah, the only issue is, as you said, the fear spread 5 times faster than facts. And the problem is the young generation are the most educated, but also the one with the shortest attention span. And so it's very difficult to communicate facts in an Instagram post. So that would be the challenge of the decade, probably. So, Katerina, to conclude, let's return to the gender divide issue, because another major takeaway from the debate at the event was that we need to pay far more attention to youth mental health. And in some way, you also allude this in the article when you speak about whites, mainly men, who vote for extreme right populist parties. And you also briefly mentioned when you spoke about isolation in the first question. So can you expand a little bit on this connection?
Yes. So, in my view, I think that the battle about our youth, about the European youth, and also youth, about the young generation, is it's to be led on two fronts. I think internal and then external. I think it's a natural thing that someone that is not doing well within themselves, that would even care or pay attention to what is happening in the outside world or in politics or globally. So the effects of the COVID pandemic, we are still to assess. I mean, but we can sense already some consequences of the lockdowns, of the isolation, of that online lectures and so on. If we are having youth which is struggling to meet friends, to date, to have new, to have new people in their life, to establish all these like long-term friendships, that means that we have a problem in which their only worldview is through their phone, it's online, and of course they would be more prone to influences. I think that isolation and depression in the young years, okay, of course, I mean, it's hormones, we can say adolescence, but this is something else that we are experiencing right now, and we need a lot more psychological support than previously for these generations. So that's why I think it's extremely crucial for them to first be able to to portray their dreams, what are their interests, what are their common points with other people, and then to regain their confidence, and then they would be able to dream about their own future, about what they would want to study, what they would want to work, where they would like to travel, all these long-term dreams that every young person is having. Then the other front after this phase 2 is them forming able to form opinions about politics, about, and then demanding based on their needs from the policymakers, from the politicians, what would they need and how would they support a government or any party from in the spectrum. So this is where the far-right movement, I think they're extremely successful, that they target the young people directly. They pick up on this isolation, depression. They parade around with assumptions why they feel like the way they feel, which is more or less completely irrelevant, but they pick up on the surface, not on the core issues. And I think that this is the battle that it's to be led. And what I also mean is that it is our generation, it's the decisiveness and decision makers in Europe, that they need to live a world which is a lot more safe and secure to dream about our future. We are also in the same position. I mean, there are so many uncertainties. We are living in super uncertain times. It's crisis mode one after the other since 2020. And all of this is being portrayed also to our parents, to us, and then, of course, to the next generation. So I really think that in order for all of us to be more confident about what will happen in the next 10 years, 20 years, it's exactly that we need decisive leadership. We need some even more courageous decisions, which might not be popular, but that would really implicate our long-term plans, goals and dreams, and also our countries. So I think this is what I mean when we have like a world in which we can project confidence also to the youth. there are many ideas, but also many needs. So on the supply-demand front, it's not really clear what we can offer to the youth, which is more than what it is right now. But I think that we have to primarily help them find themselves, form their own identity. These are their formative years. What do they want? Who they want to hang out with? And then dare, like, for them to dare to dream even further and to speak about issues that all of us are being concerned with.
Well, you said 2020. I would go back even to 2008. I think we have been living in a constant crisis mode since at least 2008, and young people were born, basically. They spend their entire life in a crisis mode. They have no idea of what the future look like because we're living in an unpredictable world. So maybe we should start with that, making the world more predictable.
Yeah.
So, Kate, Mihael, thank you very much to you both for sharing your insights today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much, Sara, for having us.
Thank you very much, Sara.
And for those listening in, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and discover all the interesting insights of the European View on our website, martincenter.eu, and our social media channels. Thank you, and stay tuned for more.
This was the European View podcast, your place to navigate the insights of our policy journal. Follow the Martins Centre for more.